If you can understand this model, it will allow you to speak like a CEO. Let's get into it. The first component is something called control. What problem does control solve? If you look at most people, they speak in a way where they are not in control of their movements, of their behavior. If they're asked a question, they just immediately respond, or they don't really choose what they want to say. They just verbalize whatever comes to mind. So, for example, let's say you haven't done your homework in school, and your teacher says, "Hey, where's your homework?" And you have to come up with some sort of an excuse, and you say, "Oh yeah, homework, I really wanted to do it, but actually what happened was that my parents, they wanted me to go to visit some relatives, and I had this homework from the other class and I couldn't do it, but I'll get it done today. I'm going to ask my friend to give me the questions, and then I'll submit it to you tomorrow." Now, just the way that I'm talking, you can tell I don't have control over the way I'm speaking. When you have a lack of control, it communicates a lack of certainty. It communicates uncertainty, meaning I am not sure about what I am saying. If I am not sure what I'm saying, are you going to trust me? Of course not, because even I'm not convinced. So we need to have more control over what we say. So this would be the content. What is it that's actually coming out of your mouth? The other thing is the pacing. If you look at most people who are nervous, they will generally talk a lot faster. They will talk faster than what they usually talk like. So if someone already talks fast and they're just speaking like that, that's fine. But if they're normally slow and you ask them a question or you put them on stage, and they have to speak on the spot, all of a sudden they will start talking very fast because they can't control their pace. They can't control the emotion. They can't control the adrenaline in their body. And now they start to speak and speak and speak. This is a problem, especially when paired with your body language. If you look at a lot of documentaries of criminals and people being interrogated by detectives, you'll see in their body language they start scratching or having all of these uncontrollable movements simply because they don't know how to control themselves in that moment. And this communicates weakness. It communicates that you don't really stand for something. You don't really sound convincing, because if you want to be a CEO who leads a company, or you persuade people, you have an image in your mind and you believe in it. You have a certain amount of belief and control over that vision, and you want to communicate that control. You're not going to sound all shrinked up like, yeah, so I really want to do this thing, and I think this is really going to work. Can you tell how it doesn't sound like I believe what I'm saying? If you look at an example where you went to the doctor and you said, "Hey doctor, I've got some back pain. What should I do about the back pain?" And the doctor says, "Oh, you know what? You have back pain. What you can do is you can take this medication. I've given it to a couple of other clients, and it really helped. And I think it's going to help you as well. So try it." Are you going to trust this doctor? Probably not. Why? Because they have no control over their pacing. They have no control over their body language, and they have no control over their content. So this, in our mind, just says, "Hey, this person isn't exactly a credible human being because they have no control over what they say and how they behave." So the key to having control is to slow everything down. When you look at CEOs, you'll notice they're specific about the words they use. They're specific about the pace they go at. They slow down their body language. They're not doing this all the time. Instead, when they do use their hands, they use it to describe something, they use it to progress in the discussion. There is a purpose to their body language. So you must have control if you want to speak like a CEO. Now, the second component is the component called emotion. Most speakers think, if I just deliver information, I am a good speaker, or people will act on it. But if you just look at the internet, there is more than enough information available for us to do anything, for us to start a business, for us to get the best relationships, for us to get in the best shape, but we don't do it. Why don't we do it? Because there's no emotional reason to do it. But when you put an urgency or a timeline on someone, now they start doing it. So for example, let's say you've been trying to get in shape for a long time, but now you're about to get married. Now there's this emotion that drives urgency to get in shape. Oh, my big day is coming up. I have to do it because you feel the emotion. Similarly, when you watch a movie that's inspiring and motivating, it makes you feel something. You see a movie, it inspires you. Oh, I want to do that. I remember when I watched Pursuit of Happiness for the first time, the movie with Will Smith, where he has no money and works really hard, eventually gets a good job, becomes successful. It inspired me to never give up and continue chasing my dream because it's tied to emotion. But unfortunately, when people speak, they speak in bullet points, they speak in facts, and in their tone, there is no emotion. So, how do you add emotion when you speak? The first thing is through tone. Imagine if you played the guitar, but you only played one chord the whole time, or you only played using one string the entire time. Your audience will eventually get bored. They will not listen to you. So your tone must vary. It must go up and down. So if I really want to make you listen, I can say, hey, I'm going to talk about something extremely exciting. I'm extremely passionate about what our team is doing. And here's the thing. If you follow along with me on this journey, and if you just believe the things that I'm telling you, I truly believe we can change the world. Now, I'm just bluffing here, but can you see how there's emotion up and down, fast and slow, fast and slow? I'm not using the same tone the entire way through. Now, there is a time to use the same tone. If you want to show control and if you want to show certainty, a lot like in the doctor example I gave you, instead of, hey, do you want this medication? If you said, you're having some back pain, well, I've worked with some patients in the past. I've given them this medication. It tends to work really well. Try it out. Now, because I'm actually not using a lot of emotion, I'm relatively monotone, it's still communicating certainty. So this is why context is important. People say, oh, go up and down in your tonality. Well, sometimes you want to show stability. And when you want to show stability, you must not go up and down. You must stay relatively flat. But if you want to engage an audience, if you want to make them feel emotional to act on something, then you must use your tonality. Then you must vary. So that's number one. Number two is storytelling. If you look at any Steve Jobs presentation, when they announced the iPhone, it is laced in storytelling. They talk about where they started as Apple, what product they started, what problem they were solving, where they are now. They talk about it with stories. If you look at Nike, all their advertisements are in stories because people remember stories because they are tied to emotion. And I'll give you a perfect example. Think about the last birthday you had that you really enjoyed, where you celebrated with your family and your friends, or maybe if it was a different event, you got a job promotion, whatever. Think about that day. You can probably remember the people, the food, what you did, who you talked to, who was there. But now, try to imagine 3 days before that. What happened on that day? Where were you? What were you doing? Who were you talking to? I'm willing to bet you don't remember that, or you don't remember it in nearly as much detail. Why? Because there is no emotional reason for your brain to remember it. Our brain remembers based on emotion. If there's just information and no emotion, there's no reason to do it. You have the information, but you have no reason to act. So you must speak with emotion, and the best way to do that is tell stories, be relatable, instead of saying, hey, I think you should buy this new treadmill. It's going to help you get in better shape. You could say something like, listen, I was in terrible shape. I didn't move at all. And I remember I got this ad for a desk treadmill. And I ended up being very skeptical of it. I didn't really want to buy it. Why would I want to pay $600 for a treadmill under my desk? It makes me feel like a hamster. But then I spoke to a friend of mine and I saw him. He got in significantly better shape. And I asked him, what did you do? And he said, honestly, I'm pretty shocked. I spent $600 on this walking treadmill, this desk treadmill, and I do all of my work from it. I can walk relatively fast while on the treadmill. I don't even notice that I'm walking. I burn about 700 calories every single day, and I've lost a significant amount of weight just doing that. So if you're on the fence, I'd recommend you buy it. So I heard that story and I bought it, and sure enough, it changed my life. So this is an example of, instead of me just telling you, hey, buy this treadmill because it has these features, I used a story that tell you the actual benefits of it, because a story is emotional. you can imagine it in your head, and you can see the roadmap ahead of you. So if you're a leader and you want to paint a vision for your audience, for your team, you must speak in stories of the past, stories of where you are now, stories of where you want to go. That is what will urge people to act on what you say. And the last thing is that it's a lot easier to remember stories. Like I said, you will not remember any company meeting update or your average client meeting unless something emotionally significant happens. So if you speak in a way that has a lot of emotions, where you speak from the heart, you tell more stories, your tonality is varied, you speak with emotion, and you also speak with empathy, meaning you understand where people are, you meet them where they're at. So if they're having an issue at work, instead of saying, hey, just do this thing, do step 1, 2, 3, sure, you've told them what to do, but you haven't understood them emotionally. But if you just added, hey, completely understand this software is really hard to figure out. For me, it took me a long time. This is you relating to them. What helped me was step 1, 2, 3. I'm saying the exact same thing, but now I'm using empathy. I'm connecting with them, and now they will take on the information. Because what people don't realize is if they don't trust the messenger, they will not take on the message. So for example, if I said, go buy this stock, it's going to make you rich, you might think, okay, I know Yasser, but what does he know about investing? Why should I trust him? But if Ray Dalio said, hey, buy this stock, you're going to become rich, you're going to trust him a lot more because he's the one saying it. So the messenger is extremely important. People will not take on the message if they don't trust the messenger. So instead of just, hey, here are the 5 tips to do this, here are the 3 things to do that, give people some emotional reason to believe you and act on it. So emotion, that's the second component. And number 3, you have organize. Organize means how do you process and organize the thoughts in your head before you say them out loud? Because most people, they will just say what's on their mind without filtering it. And I'll give you a perfect example. I was once at a business conference, and it took a lot of money to be at that business conference. Everyone at that conference has paid thousands of dollars. They flew out to the event. And the entrepreneur that we were there to see, he was going to take questions from the audience. So you just get one shot. And I noticed that when this person was asking questions, his question, it had all of his unfiltered thoughts in them. So for example, it would sound something like, hey, I've got a question, but before I tell you my question, this is what I do, and I'm thinking of doing this, and so I have this team member who's doing that, and by the way, we're also planning on doing, and he just gave all of the details, to which the entrepreneur said, what is your question? What are you asking me? Don't just throw unprocessed details at people, because it shows that you're a lazy thinker. I don't want to think myself, organize my thoughts, and give it to you. I just want to throw my thoughts at you. I hope you can catch my thoughts, somehow unscramble what it is that I'm saying, find my question from there, find a good answer for that question that you might not even know is the question that I want, and then give it back to me. That's what most people sound like, because they open their mouth without thinking about what to say. Amazing, right? You can actually think before you speak. So you have to organize your thoughts. How do you do that? You do that by using structure. So to give you an example in conversation, if someone asked you, hey, what time is it? What would you do? You would look at your watch and say, oh, it's 4:30. But what if you ask someone, hey, what time is it? And they said, oh yeah, I've actually been thinking about what the time is as well. I've been working so long all day. It's been a long day. I've been back-to-back meetings. I completely lost track of the time. I think the last time I remember checking the time, it was 11:30 or something, and a couple of hours had probably passed by that. But let me see what the time is. Let me open up the computer here, and you never know, right? How late? What are you thinking in your head? Just tell me the answer. Just tell me the time. And most people talk like this, where they can't control, they can't organize their thoughts. They just verbally vomit everything that's coming to mind. So this ability to hold back information, again, going back to control, and organizing it in your head. How would you answer that? It's 4:30. If I ask a more broad-ended question, hey, what's the update on this project? You answer the question first and you say, well, the update is we're going to expect delivery next Monday and we're still in contact with the supplier in case anything changes. If they have follow-up questions, they will ask. Or you can say, do you want me to give you more details about that? If they say yes, give them more details. So always start with the point and then go back into the details. Most people start with the unprocessed details and the viewer has to think, like, what are you saying? What is the actual message here? The second bit here is simplify. People simply don't know how to simplify information. So if I'm explaining to you how, I'll give you a perfect example. I recently bought a product called 8 Sleep, the number 8 and sleep. Someone was describing this to me because I have issues falling asleep. And I said, what does it do? He said, oh, it's an amazing piece of technology. It has cool pad technology. It has this unit that you can place into your room. And it works on both sides of the bed, and it can really help you sleep. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What is this thing? Oh, it's this brand new technology. It has all these water pipes in your bed. I'm like, listen, I don't need to install water pipes in my bed. I just need to go to sleep. Then I spoke to a different friend of mine, and he had bought it. I said, hey, 8 Sleep, I keep getting the ads for it. What is 8 Sleep? And he said this, oh, think about it like a thermostat, but for your bed sheet. You take a bed cover, you put it on top of your mattress, and with the app, you can control the temperature. And then you can just control what temperature you sleep at. So if you're someone who's really hot at night, you can make the bed sheets really cold, and it'll help you sleep. That's exactly what I need because I sleep with the air conditioning on, and it's still not cold enough, and I can't fall asleep, so I bought it. How did I decide to buy it? Because it was simple and easy to understand, because the person who explained it to me organized their thoughts in a way that it made it simple for me. This is what you must do. Find analogies, find metaphors, make it easy for people to understand what it is you're saying. So simplify using analogies and metaphors. And you can also use stories here too. And when you're doing a presentation, the same concept applies. Many people, when they are putting a presentation together, their idea of a presentation is, let me take everything I know, pack it into slides, and then toss it at the audience. Each slide has 10 bullet points in it. There are 75 slides. What is the audience going to remember? Nothing. They're not going to remember anything because it's information. And I remember this because I once did a presentation on how to overcome your speaking anxiety. It was this 75 slides, 17 different methods of how to overcome your speech anxiety. I had done a lot of rigorous research. I wanted to make sure I include every single method, and it was heavy material. After I finished my presentation at a university, someone came to me afterwards and said, Yasser, I am really afraid of public speaking. That is exactly what I needed to hear. And I said, amazing, go apply it, because he was the one speaking right after me. I saw him speak right after. He was visibly nervous. He was holding his notes and shaking. The notes were shaking in his hand. He stumbled and he mumbled, and I saw him place the clicker on the lectern, and he walked off in the middle of his speech. Now you can imagine the kind of tension there was in the room because people didn't know what was happening. There was a lot of uncertainty, and it's like watching a car crash. So afterwards I went to him and I asked him, hey, what happened? And he said, I just got nervous. I don't know what to tell you. I got nervous. And I'm thinking, I just did a presentation on the 17 methods that you can use to overcome your anxiety. I just did it. 15 minutes before you stepped on stage, I did that presentation. And then he said something to me I'll never forget. He said, Yasser, I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember. He couldn't remember one single technique out of the 17 techniques that I shared 15 minutes ago. What is everyone else going to remember tomorrow, the day after that, a week after that? What is the point of me delivering a presentation that every single person listening will forget? It was a pretty tough moment for me, but I realized I have to change it. And the problem was I was overloading people with information. Going back to emotion, if you want people to act, you must tell them stories. You must make it emotionally significant, because if it is not emotionally significant, they will not remember. So when you organize information in a way where it's simple, is easy, is based on emotion and stories, examples, metaphors, analogies, then they remember. So that is how you organize your thoughts. Of course, there's a lot more here. I'm writing a whole book on this exact framework, so stay tuned for that. If you want to speak like a CEO, you must have control, you must use emotion, and you must organize your thoughts.